In today's video, we're going to show you how to replace your alternator located right down on the passenger side of our engine. Now we're going to disconnect your battery. We're going to go ahead and open up the trunk lid. I'm going to go ahead and lift up the spare tire cover area here, and that's going to expose our battery on the passenger side rear of the vehicle. We're going to use our 10mm wrench, and we're going to loosen the nut on our ground terminal here. Once you have that loose, we're going to spin that and disconnect it. I'm going to come on over to the positive side. We're going to do the same here. I'm going to disconnect that, set that aside. I want to go ahead and remove our cap here off of our expansion tank. I'm going to pop that off and set that aside. Now on the bottom side here, right on the base of our wheel well area on the passenger side, there's going to be some plastic buttons here holding our lower splash guard to the fender liner. I'm going to use our trim tool. I'm just going to go up in here and we're just going to pop off the little buttons that are in here holding these together. Ours don't all match, so it looks like someone was already in here playing with these before. We're actually missing a button over here, and we have a zip tie there or some sort of anchoring strap. We're going to go ahead and pop that off, remove that, and let's go ahead and do the same for the driver's side. Okay, pop these buttons out here. On the front cross member, we have two 10mm bolts. On the front cross member, we have two 10mm bolts. Across the lower front portion of the bumper, there's a series of 7mm screws. Let's get to loosen and remove these. The little retaining clips on the back side here have come loose, so we need to grab that with a pair of pliers. I'll go ahead and remove those there. Now we get the screws removed. Gotta lower this down. On the lower right-hand corner of our radiator, we have the drain plug or petcock right here. I'm gonna go ahead and grab this. I'm gonna turn it counterclockwise. Ours is stuck a little bit, so we're gonna go ahead and grab a pair of pliers. Turn that. Now we have our catch can underneath to go ahead and catch our coolant as it comes out. Now our drain hose is not working as it should. So we're just going to adjust our catch can here. And just pull that plug right out. Now that our radiator is drained out, go ahead and install your drain plug. Now if you're able to loosen your drain plug and it drained out through the hose here, perfect. If you had to unscrew it and remove it completely, go ahead and just thread that back in, and we're just going to hand tighten that back into place like that. Just give this a quick wipe down. And we'll go ahead and remove our drain pan. Grab your upper engine cover here. We're going to pop that up, remove that, set it aside. Let's disconnect our harness right here. There's a little red lock tab. I'm going to press that out. Pinch this tab, disconnect that like so. I'm going to use our screwdriver here, loosen up this clamp for the air intake tube. Okay, just give that a little wiggle woggle there and go ahead and pop that off. Let's go ahead and move this hose clamp off of our upper radiator. Slide that back. Now that we have our hose clamp pulled back, I'm going to go ahead and grab the hose clamp, break this free off of the thermostat neck here. Go ahead, grab that hose and work that off. With this disconnected, let's go ahead and do the same with the hose clamp to our radiator and remove this upper radiator hose. Now we have a pair of pliers on our other hose clamp. Let's go ahead and open that up and try and work that hose off. Good, set that hose aside. Now what we're going to do next is remove our serpentine or drive belt. It is very important that you remember how that belt is routed, unless you have some sort of decal or something referencing that underneath your hood. Good way to do it is simply draw where the belt is routed, your pulleys and accessories, and that way there, when you go to put that belt back on, it's routed the correct way. If it is routed the incorrect way, that can cause your engine to overheat prematurely and run into some major issues. So, good little tip. Now we have our ratchet down on the front side of our tensioner here, and we're going to pull this to the right and remove our serpentine or drive belt here. And we're going to go ahead and release that. Pull our ratchet out, and we're going to go ahead and remove our belt. Now is a good time for you to go ahead and inspect your drive belt. Fold that over, look for any cracks or pieces of rubber that are missing out of the belt. Ours looks good, so we're going to be able to go ahead and reuse our belt. Now on the bottom side of our alternator, we have two bolts holding this here. We have this one right here, and we have this one here that goes to a mounting bracket. We're going to use our 15mm socket. I'm going to go ahead and get on this bolt right here. and spin that bolt out. Pull that out and set that aside. Right, let's go ahead and get to the front bolt here. Remove that bolt, set that aside. On the top side here, we have a 15mm bolt on the top. Now this is one of three. This is the last bolt. Once we loosen and remove this here, the alternator will be loose. There's going to be a connector on the back and a power cable connected to the back as well that we'll have to disconnect once we remove this here. Let's go ahead and just try to wiggle that alternator free, like so. We're just going to kind of bring the alternator forward a little bit. It's going to give us access to the cord and the cable on the back. Right on the back side here, there's going to be a little pinch tab. You're going to pinch that and want to work that connector off. Oh, our connector is stuck on there pretty good. We're just going to use our little pliers here to go ahead, open it. There we go. Slide that off. And we have our power cord on the back side here. I'm going to pinch the little tabs on the cap. Push that up and off. I'm going to use our 13mm socket. Now we did go ahead and sprayed a little bit of rust penetrant on that stud there. Ours was a little bit corroded. But we are able to work this here to get that off. All right, we'll go ahead and support that alternator. Finish working that nut off the back side. Work that cable off, and now our alternator is free. Go ahead and work that up through the top. Up and out. Let's go ahead and lower our alternator down in a position. Get it down here. I want to go ahead and hook up our cable on the back side of it here. And I just want to go ahead and get that nut started, a couple threads there. Let's go ahead and position our cable end properly so that lines up, and then we can go ahead and tighten that nut down. All right, we have our cable end on. Let's go ahead and tighten that down. And make sure that's on there pretty snug. Go ahead and grab that plastic boot. Bring our connector around on the side. We just have to kind of manipulate the alternator back this way here. Get that plastic cover snap back on. It's clipped on there. Let's go ahead and get that electrical connector plugged into the back side of the alternator. Here we go, slide that on. When you press it on, you can feel it and hear it click into place. At this point, we're just gonna kind of manipulate that alternator back into place. We have the bracket on the bottom. All right, so we have that little piece lined up here. Let's go ahead and get our upper bolt lined up. Just gonna get that bolt started, a few threads here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try and thread that down as far as I can by hand, but I do not want to tighten it yet. I want to still have this mobile. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna snug up this bolt just to the point where it takes up this gap here, yet the alternator is mobile. All right, so we're closing up the gap on the top here. And just when that's right there, we wanna, just once that gap is gone, we're gonna stop tightening that. Let's go ahead and install our two lower bolts. On the bottom here, we have to go ahead and line up the bottom of the alternator with our bracket. So let's go ahead and pivot that on into position. Go ahead and take your bolt, line that up. I'm gonna go ahead and get the other bolt lined up as well. Now I did go ahead and put some anti-seize compound on those threads. All right, now that we have this there, let's go ahead and position that alternator so that those bolts go into place. There we go. That one there. And we're just going to go ahead and spin those in a few threads. And we have those bolts bottomed out. Let's go ahead and tighten those. Once that bolt is bottomed out, just give it probably about couple of inches of pull there. You just want to make sure that those are snug. That's bottomed out. Just a little bit more, that's good. Let's head up top and we'll tighten up the upper bolt. Now on the top here, I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this bolt down. And that bolt is bottomed out right there. That is nice and tight. All right, let's go ahead and install our belt. Okay. Now our belt is run along everything it needs to be run on. I'm reaching behind the tensioner because the belt comes off the back side of our tensioner here. So what I now have to do is put our ratchet on here, twist our tensioner, and then put our belt on the back side of the pulley. All right, let's go ahead and flex that tensioner, stretch that belt on the back side. I'm going to go ahead and release this. With that released, what we want to do now is make sure that our belt is on all of our pulleys properly, all the way around our crankshaft, alternator. Everything looks good. We're going to install our upper radiator hose. I'm just going to get in there with our pliers here and open up that clamp a little bit. Just going to reposition that so we can get that seated properly. All right, our upper clamp and hose is in position. Go ahead and grab the upper part of that hose, work that onto the thermostat neck here. And I just want to go ahead and move this clamp down into position. have our clamp in position, and our upper radiator hose is installed. Go ahead and take your air intake tube here. We're going to work that onto both the air box as well as our throttle body here. Now I want to go ahead and tighten down our hose clamps here. Snug those down. Install that front connector on the intake sensor. Press it till you hear it click in, and then press that red lock tab in. That'll lock it into place. And lower the cover down into place. Lining up the pins, and press that down to lock it into place. Let's go ahead and put our under engine splash shield up and in. With our splash shield in its general location, we're going to go ahead and install the 2 screws on the back side here. Once we get those installed, we'll go ahead and snug them down. All right, let's go ahead and install our 2 rear screws here. All right, once we have these 2 caught, let's go ahead and snug those down. Let's go ahead and install our screws into our retaining clips here. I'm going to get a few of these started by hand first, then we'll go ahead and snug them down. Go ahead and start snugging these down. You're just going to complete the same process across the whole front side and onto your 2 edges. You just want to snug those. Once you feel them stop, then it's pretty much maxed out. And just continue for the rest of these. Now I'm going to go ahead and install the 3 plastic push pins on the driver's side. This one here, when you're pushing it in, you might be able to use a flathead screwdriver on the back side just to apply some pressure to the fender liner. Pull it forward, lock them together. Once you have these 3 in, go ahead and repeat for the passenger side. And we'll get these 2 in here. Once we snug this down, you can go ahead and repeat the process for the passenger side. Now what we're going to do is we want to top off the coolant system here. We're going to go ahead and come to our expansion tank. We want to put on our funnel unit here. We want to go ahead and use a recommended coolant for this vehicle application. We're going to continue to fill this up, and we're going to go ahead and start up the vehicle, let it get up to operating temperature. That could be 20 to 25 minutes. Let that thermostat open up and pull the coolant from here. You want to go ahead and make sure that we go ahead and make sure the system is topped off It might take you a couple times to make sure that the system is buttoned up and topped off with coolant. Now at this point here, our cooling system will only take so much. On the top of our water pump here, we have a bleeder port. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and use our number 9 Allen. We're going to loosen and remove this threaded port. This is going to allow for our engine to take more coolant. The engine is cool, so we want to go ahead and loosen this here. We want to continue to add coolant to our expansion tank there until we have some coolant come out through this port here. Here we have our coolant coming out. We're going to go ahead and install our plug. We're simply going to go ahead and snug that down. Once you feel it start to bottom out, just give it a little bit more. Now that we've buttoned up our bleeder screw there, we want to go ahead and pay attention to the tank here. There is a max line on this here. We're going to continue to fill up the expansion tank until this is at max. Then we're going to go ahead and remove our cap, button it up. I'm going to go ahead and start up the vehicle, let it start to warm up, and use that coolant. It might take a couple times to go ahead and get this back to its max line here. As the engine's thermostat opens up, it'll take some of that coolant out of the tank. But we want to make sure that this is always topped off. Now that our expansion tank is at the full line here, we're going to start up the vehicle. We're going to put our heat on max, and we're going to let the vehicle run until we have good, steady, consistent heat. At the same time, we're going to watch our coolant level here. Let it run for about 15-20 minutes. Add coolant as necessary to maintain our max line. Then we can go ahead and remove our cap here and install our radiator cap, and we'll be all set. Let's go ahead and reconnect our battery here. Install the positive terminal here. Let's go ahead and tighten that down. And once you have that good and tight, go ahead and install your ground terminal. We'll do the same for this. At that point there, we can go ahead and close down our cover here, and you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.